There's a lot of hot scenes with that guy that's
That,
liking our tweets on Twitter.
you got a man crush on him a little bit. I'm just, just saying.
Just been touched by him in the Twitterverse. And here we are. This is what happens. Hey everyone, Adam and Andrew here with It Takes Two Takes. Thanks for watching. We're going to review the finale of The Warrior, but before we do that, I want to let you know that while we're done with The Warrior, we also talk about other things. We've reviewed Mandalorian episode by episode. We often will do trailer reactions, and I have other plans on discussing other film and television events, shows, topics, discussions. So if you like those things, if you like this video, please make sure you subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment. It just tells us that, I don't know, other people are involved and either agree or disagree with the discussion, which is always fun. So thanks for watching. This is an important one to us. This is what could very well be the series finale of Warrior. We don't know.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. And I don't know if we even begin there because this, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I just want to throw it out there, and maybe we could launch from this, but this certainly didn't feel like a finale. This, if anything, the last episode to me felt like a finale, Adam. This almost felt like, sort of after an epilogue, and an after show. Like it was kind of the dust, the rubble. Everything's settled, and here we are, and this is what we're left with, and looking ahead to the future, which we may or may not have as viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some interviews lately with some of the actors who are all hoping that there is a third season. Seasons 1 and 2 are going on HBO Max, so if they do well enough and get a big enough following once they're moved over to HBO Max, maybe we'll get a third season. Right now, nothing's been announced, so all we can do is wait and see. But no, I like last season was kind of the same way, right? We had the big fight and episode 9 and episode 10 just kind of felt like an afterthought, wrap up type episode. Other than the fact you had that one fight in the factory, it did feel, it's kind of the same kind of feel this time around, right? We had the big riots last episode, and this episode is kind of here's everything that's happened after it, and we're gonna have one more fight. So kind of
after it, but it was like immediately after it. Like they were still picking up bodies when they kicked off the episode, and somehow had time to make a mural out of a Sahm. By the way, I don't know how that happened so quickly, but okay.
Hey, Asian people are pretty damn efficient and talented. That's all I'm gonna say.
You help us pick up these bodies up. When I get done with the whiskers on a Sam's face, we'll get there.
Hey, we had people that were just hanging out on a balcony watching the whole thing. So more than likely, it was a couple of them that decided, hey, since we didn't partake in the fight, we're just going to paint this mural of this guy that we saw do this really cool nunchuck fighting, right? And we got some reaction, right? It opened with my Ling seeing this mural, and she was rather disgusted by it, right? And she was not thrilled with it. And then we almost immediately go to a different reaction of a toy has come out of the house, still wounded. She sees it and she likes it, right? And she's absolutely like, she's the only one who had a positive reaction to it, because even Sahm, who meets up with her in the street, not a big fan of his own mural, even makes a comment about the nose size. And later in the episode, Young Jun sees the mural and he doesn't like it either. So really, a toy is the only one who likes this mural, and she sees it as a symbol. But it was definitely neat.
And that perhaps a nod to Bruce Lee himself in a way, right? I mean, he was kind of a symbol. He was someone that sort of made sort of the Asian film and sort of the presence of Asian characters in film at an international scale more than anyone else had.
Yeah, and I think so it starts off kind of a little bit more character. Sahm sees a toy all beat up, asks who did this. She says she took care of it, so he doesn't get an answer to that. And we see them have another moment later on. This time, instead of her nursing him injured, he's nursing her injured. And Nellie shows up. We said we didn't probably think we saw the last of Nellie, and Nellie did show up and kind of reconciled with the toy.
Probably one of the few things of closure we had in this episode, if we were to never come back to it.
And it was So those were kind of some of the lull moments. We had a lot of uh, character stuff. I mean, there was a lot that really happened in this episode.
Absolutely.
Lee quits, says I'm done with the police department, says he can't do it. O'Hare tries to talk him out of it, unsuccessful. O'Hare's wife returns, and he kind of begs her to come back and give him another chance. He has a nice conversation with Leary while over some drinks. Of course, Leary lets him know that he knows that he was working for the Feng Hai, and that's going to come back up around. Yeah, assuming we get another season.
Right. That's what makes all of this conversation so difficult. I agree. It's like, well, we assume, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah, Father June have a nice conversation with young June where they kind of see eye to eye, almost like he's like, all right, young June, you're starting to understand things. And he decides to pack his bags and leave, sneak out. And only Chow is the one to see him go. And Chow pays his respects to him as he goes. So we got a little bit of closure on his character to a certain extent because he's leaving the city for parts unknown. He didn't even say where he was going to go.
It's big country.
Right. We get but we have one of the big moments, I think, was Ling tries to broker some peace with young June. Young June keeps throwing it back in her face. She realizes she's not getting anywhere, and so she throws her brother under the bus.
She does, and that was something that we had been waiting for a while. So I'm at least glad they got to that, closure or mending wounds between young June and Sahm. We may not really be able to see that fully come to fruition. We'll see, but I'm glad we got to see the reaction and really have some of the truth come out, because in its own way, that's a bit of closure. But yeah, that was certainly a big moment. I was glad to see that actually happen in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, she flat out says, well, that's my brother, basically. And young June does not take it well. He kind of gets pissed, because the Sahm was keeping secrets. And, it's pointed out that had he had told him, he would have got diced, right? And it's one of those things where he was damned if he did, he damned if he don't. And Hung kind of pointed that out, right? Hung was kind of the voice of reason on that. But young June needs some time away from Sahm, I think, for a little bit. But that goes back to Ling really not trying to reconcile with her brother at all, because this is definitely not going to endear him towards her in any way, shape, or form. Because ultimately, if young June really wanted to, he could have had Sahm diced because he could see him as a traitor. Ultimately, young June didn't think that. He decided, he looked at the actions and said, your actions don't meet that. But it was still a big gamble for her to sit there and throw her brother under the bus like that.
It was a gamble. You bring up an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I have to think that, one, Ling probably knows that her brother's going to be able to handle himself. A gamble, sure. But I think her number one goal, and like she said, she hadn't realized she was going to do it until it happened. I think her number one goal was to really sabotage what he has going up to this point. And if nothing else, draw him away from Hopway, right? And whether that means he's on his own, he's less powerful on his own, or whether that means he comes to her, which, would be very beneficial for her. I think that was probably the goal. Either way, she wanted to sabotage any growth or capability he had as a group within his Tong for the time being. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she was risking him being just completely assassinated for that. But I have to think whatever gut instinct inside of her, whether she was thinking about it or not, was probably thinking, he'll live. But we can only hope.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit going back to her seeing that mural. I think, I don't think he'll, her hopes is that he'll come to her because, young June even pointed out the fact that after the fight, when he was kicked out of the Tong, he didn't go to her.
That mural's key. I mean, to Ling, like, he's now become a symbol. He's an icon, essentially. And
she wants to be that person of Chinatown, and her brother is becoming that instead. Right. He's becoming larger in anything
she's doing.
He's becoming larger in life. And before we get into the fight, we need to bring up Mayor Buckley is having a little drink, talking back to some of the influential, powerful people. Still showing that he hates Asians and that his agenda is still anti-Asian. And Penelope shows up and goes off on him for what happened to, what was his name again? Jacob.
Mayor Blake?
No, Jacob.
Oh.
Yeah. So she goes off on what happened to Jacob, and that didn't go really the way she wants. So she goes to a newspaper, tries to rat him out that way. That didn't go the way she wants. Ultimately, she confronts him again, and he found another way to deal with her, right?
Yeah, it was sort of the way I looked at it with her confronting Buckley was like, he knows his way around things. He can weasel his way out of things. I don't think her showing up, he was clearly rattled by it, but knew he was going to get it together and figure out what to do, and he did.
Yeah, he stabs himself and blames her, and in that day and age, it doesn't take much for a woman to get committed. All it takes is a man to say she's nuts. And
yeah, it doesn't take much for an Asian man, woman, not Asian, like whatever it takes. But someone like Buckley is going to have the upper hand no matter what.
And that
word of mouth.
In 1868, it really is a white man has got all the power. And in this case, a mayor who's a white man has even more power. So boom, she's locked up. But we did finally, in regards to him, we finally get to see what the photo was that Ling had.
The Confederate, yeah.
Yeah, he fought for the South, and that would not look good for him. And she lets him know she's got a couple more copies. And so now, instead of him pulling her strings, she's going to kind of pull his strings a little bit.
Yeah. And
he's not going to like it.
He's not going to like it. But hey, look, we just saw what happened with Penny walking in and threatening him, what he's capable of. Ling can hold her own, absolutely. So it would have been it maybe could potentially, if it gets picked up again or not, who knows? I can only imagine it would be an interesting dynamic for those two trying to one up each other in the blackmail or the department of manipulating one another.
So that leads us to what I think we both had been waiting for this whole season.
Right.
Sahm goes to the Banshee by himself. And that didn't go over too well with some of the other patrons of the bar. But they didn't really pose any threat to him. As we see them kind of sprawled out on the floor.
Based on the bodies on the floor. Sahm, one could say he was warming up. Others could say that, he wasn't 100% by the time he fought Leary, but I think he was ready.
And Leary and him have a drink and they talk. And I love that conversation because, Leary sits there and says, you don't belong in this country. And Sahm flat out
finally comes up.
Yeah, Sahm says, where were you born? That's not the fucking point.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
But, we bled for this country was his point, but it's been the one comeback we've been waiting for really this entire time.
Right. But, Sahm points out they came to the country for the same exact reason.
Yep.
And, it's one of those things where, okay, you came before the Civil War. He came after the Civil War. That's not on him. But in any case, Leary mainly didn't like when he brings up, do you have any children? That's what finally got Leary's goat. He's like, are we going to drink or what? And are we going to fight or what? And they go out and they have the fight. And I enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a good fight.
It was pretty much what I expected in terms of, from a size perspective, it was almost kind of it reminds me of a lot of like martial arts films. You have kind of the David versus Goliath, those classic fights where like, Bruce Lee versus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, I know that's not the same from a size perspective, or even like in Ong Bak when Tony Jaa fights Big Bear. Like, it's just sort of, it's Sahm basically fighting a brick wall early on, which is kind of how those dynamics go when you have a David versus Goliath fight. But the one thing Sahm has always had is, he's determined. he gets back up, and not only that, he kind of figures out his opponent's moves, and he's fast and he's smart and he can dodge and he could find exactly what he needs to do to take down his opponent. Leary was a formidable foe, absolutely.
He had strength. He was power.
Yes.
He stepped on his foot and laid into him. He was all about power. And Sahm went down to the ground first, but Leary does go down, but it took a little bit more effort, a lot more hits. So you really get to see that Leary was power, Sahm was speed, because Sam's pretty well ripped himself, not as much as Leary, but he's not exactly, a thin guy. But it was really about speed and force. And I thought it was a really great fight. I enjoyed it. It was exactly the type of fight I wanted. I was worried once or twice that Sahm was going to lose again because he was a little slow getting back up that last time. So I was wondering if they're going to make him lose 2 seasons straight. But he squeaked out a win and, warns everybody, hey, stay out of Chinatown or I'll bring an army next time.
And I find it interesting that Sahm, we mentioned obviously early in this discussion that early in the episode, he's sort of becoming a legend in his own right based off this mural. No one was around of anyone that even touched that mural or has seen that mural to this point. No one was there for that fight.
No.
But the Irish were there. They saw it. And in his own way is probably becoming a legend in that circle as well.
But he walked by the street with the mural after the fight, all beat up, like he had just got done in another fight. And you saw some people kind of wander out in the street like, wait, so I got a feeling the legend is going to grow. Absolutely. There is this American talking, Chinese guy who kicked Leary's ass. That's what the Irish are going to know. And I think at some point the Chinese are going to hear about that fight with Leary and how he won against Leary. And that's just going to make his legend grow because they saw the after effects of him walking back after the fight, blood still on his face and everything like that. So yeah, his legend is absolutely going to grow from that. The last thing we really leave off in this episode is we see Zing in prison.
Yeah.
And his bars are not as secure as we'd like them to be.
Another tease. I love teases when I think a show is going to be completely over. I appreciate that. I know they don't know. They didn't know at the time, I assume. It's just,
we said when Zing went off to jail that wasn't the last we were going to see of Zing, right? We knew that. They would have just done something dramatic there and had him shot or something if they really just wanted him dead. So
but that's the thing. The equivalent of a post-credit scene is really to say it could leave things open. But obviously, as we've been saying over and over in this review, it's that a lot of this to me was really everything about this said there's another season. Whether they didn't know or whatever it may have been, right? That I think if they had any inkling by the time they got to episode 10, this would have been crafted a bit differently. Certainly not to criticize it. It is what it is, but it's what we're left with, and it's bittersweet. More bitter than sweet, to be honest. So,
yeah. The one thing I do love about this series is besides getting some really good action, we get a lot of story in there as well. I mean, we talked about, in this episode, all the little events that have significance that happen throughout this episode. And, the series has got a lot of depth. And that's one of the reasons I really like the show. It's not shallow. It's not just, well, here's some martial art fighting, sprinkled with a little bit of story. It really was a lot of story and some good choreographed martial art fights, right? And if we get a season 3, it'll be interesting to see what they do to kind of top the riot and that Leary fight. I mean, geez, I kind of want to go, well, how do you make the next season bigger from a fight standpoint? Unless you're going to bring in the army or something. I mean,
I think the bigger question is this. Let me ask you this. Let's say there's not another season, but they managed to put together a 2-hour movie to really tie loose ends. Is that possible? Could it be enough and really wrap things up with just that? Do you think that could be done with that time limit and that platform?
I think it'd feel rushed with all the different characters and everything they've set up. I mean, we're talking, you have to wrap up everything with Buckley, and you have to, whether it be the redhead, the Confederate photo, his designs on getting rid of the Chinese. You got Zing, and so you're gonna have to wrap up Zing and O'Hare and Leary and Lee and O'Hare. I mean, that's just that's just some of the characters. That's not even talking about a Toy, Nelly, a Sahm, the Tongs. I mean, it was just, there is so much. I don't know that you could do it in a single movie. I think they could do it with one more season. Like if HBO said, we're going to give you,
even if it was a 6-episode season,
right? Yeah. Even if it's only a half season, we'll give you like half a season, 5 episodes, like 5 hours. They could probably wrap everything up. But one 2-hour movie, no, I don't think they could. I think there's too much in it.
It's obvious where I'm going with this. Stay tuned on It Takes Two Takes for our fan fiction, which will be wrapping up Warrior, the series.
Yeah, next year when we find out that there's still not a season even in development or planned. Yeah,
I already know I'm going to put good use to some Kieran Bew in that fan fiction. Just saying, it's going to be a lot of hot scenes with that guy that's liking our tweets on Twitter.
You got a man crush on him a little bit. I'm just saying.
Just been touched by him in the Twitterverse. And here we are. This is what happens.
Politically correct touched. Let's just say that.
We're both consenting adults,
Adam. So yeah, I think I love this season. I think it was great. I'm sure sometime in the next 6 months, I'll end up rewatching the season all at once. Just do a marathon of it all, so I can take it all in at once. It'll be nice instead of the week to week. But no, I think it was great, and I don't know of any TV series we're going to be doing anytime soon. I know after the new year we're going to probably do the season 3 of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
But I think until
holistically.
Yeah, all of it together. So I don't think we'll be doing any other TV shows between now and then. I could be wrong, but I think we'll probably end up doing Cobra Kai's the next TV series. And between now and then, expect some movies. I think there's been several movies that have come out in the last couple of months that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
And there's also the possibility of some throwbacks. And I'm
going to throw this out there. And please, if of the 40 or 50 of you that watch these Warrior reviews, is anyone else reviewing Warrior not only week to week, but hitting every episode each week? Like I've seen a few out there, and some I've watched and I've enjoyed, but no one's hitting them every week. No one has the stamina to put in the effort to talk about Warrior week after week, because the reality is it just doesn't have the fan base, and maybe if even people that are slightly interested felt like it was a lost cause because they knew it was being canceled if they were paying attention. But my question is this: if anyone is doing it, I'm dead serious. I really want to know, because I will watch them. I will subscribe to them. Show me who is doing this show week to week for season 2 and or season 1. I'd love to know. Tell us, please.
Yeah, and
we will never do it again, but we're doing it now.
Unless there's a season 3, then expect more, from us on season 3. But we're probably done with Warrior videos at this point. And for all of you that have watched all the episodes that we've done, thank you. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hopefully checking out more of our projects. And if you want to know when they come out, just subscribe and hit that notification bell, and you'll get notified when we put out new videos. And we still got a couple more episodes of Mandalorian, so we still got that to look forward to as well. And until next time, this is Andrew and Adam with It Takes Two Takes.
Hey everyone, Andrew with It Takes Two Takes. We're playing some royalty-free music, so don't even bother Shazamming that one. We got videos over here I think you're going to enjoy, and there's a button over here I'm going to enjoy. Let's make this all work together, right? Please subscribe. Check out what else we have going on. Thanks for watching.